Elena had always believed that time could heal any pain, but on that silent dawn, as she watched little Noah sleep in his crib, she realized that some wounds simply refused to heal. It was strange and deeply painful how that baby with such innocent eyes managed to awaken memories in her that she had spent her life trying to bury. With each of his gentle breaths, with each small movement of his hands, something inside Elena's chest seemed to break again, as if the past were returning to touch her skin, reminding her of everything she had lost. It was a silent but constant pain, a pain that didn't ask permission to exist. The room was bathed in dim light, filtered through the closed curtains. The world seemed too quiet, as if holding its breath in the face of the pain she hid so well. Elena slowly approached the crib, resting her hands on the worn wooden edge, observing Noah as if searching in that peaceful little face for some answer to the question that kept hammering in her mind. How can you love someone who reminds you every day of the moment that destroyed your life? It was a cruel question, unfair, but true, and she knew that many people would never understand the weight behind it. Noah, so small, so fragile, was not to blame for what had happened, and yet it was impossible for Elena to separate his image from the memories of what she had lived before his arrival. Every feature, every gesture, every sound he made rekindled echoes of the past within her, echoes she struggled so hard to silence. It was as if he were the bridge between what she wished to forget and what she could never erase. A painful mixture of love and torment. Elena spent hours watching the baby, trying to understand what fate had in store for her. At times, she felt a love so profound it hurt. At others, a sadness so intense she felt unable to breathe. And even unwillingly, she began to realize there was something more there, something she never dared to admit aloud. A dark secret, a tight knot hidden between her story and Noah's birth, a secret that weighed on her every night and accompanied her at each dawn like a shadow creeping behind her steps. She knew that when that secret came to light, everything would change. People would judge her, some would pity her, others would say she should have moved on, some would insist she wasn't to blame. But nobody, absolutely nobody, could feel what she felt. Nobody knew what really happened that night. Nobody knew the truth behind the sad look she hid so well. As she watched Noah stretch his tiny hands out in the air, as if searching for something invisible, Elena wondered if she would ever have the courage to tell him, the courage to face it all again. The courage to accept that perhaps this baby wasn't just a reminder of the pain, but also of something bigger, deeper, more complicated than anyone could imagine. Because deep down, there was a truth that Elena feared as much as she needed to face. A truth that would forever change how anyone would see her story. A truth that was about to emerge, even if she tried to resist. And when it finally came to light, everyone would understand that what that baby represented, no one could have imagined. But as Elena stood there, motionless before the crib, a new feeling began to grow within her. Something between fear and courage. Perhaps because deep down she knew that no one should carry this weight alone. Perhaps because for the first time in a long time, she felt she needed to speak, needed to be heard, needed to find a place where her pain wouldn't be seen as exaggeration, weakness, or obligatory silence. And it is precisely here that her story connects with those watching now. Because pain like this, wounds like this, don't belong only to Elena's past. How many people out there on the other side of the screen also carry a heavy memory, a trauma that insists on returning, a secret that changes the way they breathe? How many carry scars that no one sees, but that shape every step of the present? Elena, still looking at Noah, took a deep breath as if she were about to take the most difficult step of her life. A step that perhaps only makes sense when there is someone willing to listen. And if you've come this far, it's because you somehow understand, feel, or recognize the importance of transforming pain into something different, perhaps into strength, perhaps into change, perhaps into acceptance. Therefore, before we continue, I want to ask something very simple but profoundly significant. Leave a comment about what change you believe Elena, and perhaps you yourself, deserves to experience. Talk about what you want to transform, what needs to break the silence. Each comment is not just text on a screen, it's part of a chain of support that can help other people finally realize they are not alone. If this story has touched your heart so far, if you believe that moving narratives like this can help someone feel understood, take a deep breath now and click like, because that shows you're walking alongside us. If you're not yet subscribed, subscribe, because the next parts of this story will take you inside the truth that Elena so fears and at the same time needs to reveal. Each subscription helps this community grow and reach more people who may need exactly this kind of support. The journey that begins here doesn't end in pain. It continues, and it continues because there are those who want to listen, support, and make a difference. And your participation makes all the difference. Now, as Elena grips the edge of the crib with trembling fingers and little Noah begins to stir as if sensing something, the question echoing within her intensifies. She knows she can no longer run, can no longer hide, can no longer pretend that the past doesn't shape every beat of her heart. And it is precisely in this moment, in this brief instant when the silence seems to hold her breath, that something inside her begins to give way. Because the secret about Noah's birth can't be kept forever. And what comes next is the part of the story that finally exposes the burden she's carried since that night. Elena remained there, motionless, feeling the weight of that moment dragging inside her like an echo of the past that refused to die. Noah, still restless in his crib, seemed to sense the turmoil stirring in his mother's heart. It was impressive how that little being could carry so much meaning, so much history, so much pain, and at the same time, so much love. A love she would never deny, even if it silently crushed her. It was impossible to look at Noah and not be transported back to the day everything changed, the day that marked the rupture between who Elena was and who she became. The memory always came in flashes, like a storm invading her mind uninvited. It was late afternoon when she received the news. Thomas, the man she loved with an intensity that still burned, had disappeared after a car accident. She could still feel the shock coursing through her body, the sensation of the world crumbling beneath her feet without warning. At the time, she was a few weeks pregnant, something only the two of them knew. The pregnancy should have been a cause for joy, but it ended up becoming the living symbol of a destiny she never chose. The day she lost Thomas, she gained Noah. And since then, she hasn't known how to balance the two extremes that lived within her. That was why, whenever Noah smiled in that specific way, with the crooked curve at the corner of his mouth, Elena felt such a deep pang that it seemed to pierce her soul. It was identical to Thomas, the same smile, the same gentle expression, that sweetness that made her fall in love years ago, as if the past had found a way to remain alive in the present. The baby was the exact reflection of the love she had lost, and also of the night that destroyed her hopes. Because beyond Thomas's death, there was something even more painful hidden in that memory, something no one ever imagined. Elena vividly remembered their last conversation, a harsh, intense argument laden with accumulated frustrations. Thomas had revealed something she never forgot, a secret that tore her apart and completely changed the course of that night. The truth was, he planned to leave for a while. He needed to think, he needed space, he needed to understand if he was still the same man. Words that became knives in her memory. And a few hours after that cruel confession came the accident, and the silence, and the guilt that settled within her like a parasite that never left her heart. During her pregnancy, Elena struggled with conflicting feelings. She wanted to love Noah with all her might. He was innocent, pure, completely oblivious to the suffering that preceded him. But at the same time, it was impossible not to think of Thomas whenever she felt the baby move inside her. It was impossible not to wonder if, in some bitter way, life was trying to punish her for arguing, for letting him go, for saying words she couldn't take back. And every time the baby kicked, she felt as if the past was knocking at the door, demanding to be seen, heard, relived. And the conflict only intensified after the birth. Noah had the same eyes as Thomas, the same golden-brown hue that seemed to change with the light. When he cried, his expression of sadness was eerily similar to his father's. And when he laughed, it seemed as if Thomas was there, alive, present, looking at her. It was torment and a miracle at the same time, a love that burned, a longing that suffocated. Elena loved Noah with every broken piece of her heart, but it was precisely this love that hurt her, because she loved him for who he was and for what he reminded her of. All of this intensified on one particular afternoon. Noah was on the living room rug, babbling small sounds, trying to reach a blue toy, the same toy Thomas had bought months before he died when they discovered the pregnancy. The baby held the object so tightly that he seemed to recognize its importance, and then he did what Elena feared. He looked at her with the exact same look Thomas gave when he wanted to ask for something without saying a word. The same look that melted defenses, that created memories, that promised futures that never came to pass. It destroyed something inside her. Her legs went weak, she gasped for air, and tears streamed down her face before she even realized it. It was there, in that instant, that the truth finally formed, clear, inevitable. Something she had never dared to accept. Something that explained every fragment of her pain. Because Noah wasn't just a reflection of Thomas. He was the direct result of that last night, of the argument, of the revelation, of the accident, of the guilt she secretly carried. And there was something even deeper, more devastating, that Elena had been hiding from everyone, including herself. Something that, when spoken aloud, would forever change how the world saw her story. This truth was ready to emerge, and everything that would come after would depend on the courage she would find within her own suffering. Before we continue, write in the comments the phrase, "I want to know the truth," or "I feel this pain," to show that you are following this emotional journey with me. This greatly helps our video reach more people who need to hear stories like this. Elena remained standing in the middle of the room, feeling the weight of that revelation growing inside her like a storm about to break. It was strange how, even after everything, she still found the strength to breathe, to move on, to try to compose herself in the face of a past that insisted on clinging to her steps. But as she watched Noah clutching the toy that carried so much meaning, she realized something she had never allowed herself to see clearly. Running away from that pain didn't protect her. It only imprisoned her even more. And worse, in trying to escape what she felt, she ended up distancing herself from her own son as well, as if love and trauma were eternally intertwined. Her breathing became heavy, almost trembling, but there was a different spark in the depths of her eyes. A timid but present gleam, as if, for the first time, she was accepting that perhaps, just perhaps, she didn't need to continue living within the shadows of that trauma. The silence that filled the house seemed to observe her every move, as if the universe had been waiting for that decision for a long time. It was the feeling of standing before a turning point, a point that one doesn't choose, but that simply happens when the heart finally tires of bleeding in silence. Elena took a few hesitant steps toward the rug where Noah was still sitting. The baby looked at her as if he knew something important was about to happen. Those eyes, so like Thomas's, no longer seemed like a painful mirror of the past. In that instant, she saw them differently. They were no longer a reminder of what she had lost. They were no longer an open wound. They were a promise, a new possibility. A beginning she had refused to accept, but which had been there all along, patiently waiting to be acknowledged. She knelt slowly, feeling her heart pounding so hard it felt like it wanted to burst from her chest. Noah stretched out his little hands, as if asking to be held. It was a simple gesture, but laden with meaning. And Elena, for the first time since Thomas's death, felt no fear touching him. She felt no guilt. She didn't feel the old pain that crushed her every morning. What she felt was something different, something warm, something that spread through her body like an unexpected chance to breathe without the weight of the past. She wrapped her arms around the baby, gently pulling him close to her chest. Noah rested his head on her shoulder, so small and so trusting, as if he knew this was a moment that would transform everything. And Elena, unable to hold back the silent tears, finally let out in a low voice what she had been keeping inside since the beginning. That phrase that seemed to break invisible chains around her heart. "You are not the pain I lived through. You are the chance I have to start over." The words came out fragile but true, and the instant they were spoken, something changed inside her. That tight knot, that suffocating guilt, that cruel mix of love and suffering. Everything seemed to loosen for the first time. It was as if recognizing her own pain was the first step to letting it go. And more importantly, as if she could finally see Noah for who he truly was. Not the symbol of a loss, but the possibility of a rebirth. She stayed like that for a few minutes, hugging the baby tightly, letting the warmth of that moment melt away layer upon layer of painful memories. And the more she held him, the more she realized that the past, however devastating it had been, didn't have to define every chapter of the future. There was choice. There was an alternative. There was love. A love she had been afraid to feel, but which now seemed the only thing capable of sustaining her. Noah let out a small, muffled laugh against her shoulder, as if approving of that silent awakening. And Elena couldn't help but smile too. It wasn't a big smile, nor one filled with euphoria. It was a fragile, almost shy but sincere smile. A smile that said that for the first time in a long time, she was willing to face what lay ahead, including what still needed to be said, what still needed to be revealed about that night that changed everything. Because even having embraced Noah so intensely, she knew the pain wouldn't disappear overnight. She knew she still needed to revisit difficult memories, confront buried secrets, acknowledge unspoken wounds. But now it didn't seem impossible. It didn't seem like a sentence. It just seemed like a path. A path that began there on the living room floor with her son in her arms and a truth about to emerge. A truth she finally needed to accept in order to move forward. And as she closed her eyes for a second, inhaling Noah's sweet scent and feeling the warmth of his small body against hers, something inside her whispered that perhaps life was offering her exactly what she never thought she would have. The possibility of rewriting her own story, of building something new from what remained. Before we continue, write in the comments, "I want to start over," or "I feel this transformation," to show that you are experiencing this story along with me. Your comment greatly helps this emotional narrative reach more people who need to hear it. If this story touched you, don't forget to like and share it. It makes all the difference in continuing this journey.